in terms of having some creativity with the business acumen. So that's why on the first place I chose the ad industry, because it gives you the it gives you creativity and business hand in hand, and lets you explore like whatever you want to explore with the business acumen and use your creativity. So I worked in this agency called Integrated Communications, Hyderabad. It has offices in Bangalore and Bombay as well, and we do all kinds of marketing. Like um, we have ATL and BTL communication, brand assets and merchandise, corporate identity, brand campaigns, tactical campaigns, packaging, and like everything from start to end. So we are into a lot of stuff, and that's why at the end of the day, it's called PAD Integrated Communications, right? So we do a lot of stuff, and we have like separate departments. So I think let's start with your questions now. So I think the first question which you had was a brief about the agency structure, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So basically, any agency is divided into three departments. The three departments are planning and strategy, creative. In creative, there are two different departments. Basically, there are three departments. The first department is your planning and strategy. The second department is design, which basically creates all the communication, and the third department is copywriting. So copywriting, strategy, and design. So it become if you make a Venn diagram with three circles, the part which is in the center is the sweet spot. So the agency is a combination of these three things, and whatever communication or whatever you're trying to achieve in the agency, and you're working on a campaign or anything, you have to make sure that all the three circles or all the three departments work in complete synchronization. So now how basically we work is getting into the process, and getting into how we basically work is let me just yeah. So what we do is basically, so for example, whenever like a client or anyone approaches us or we approach them, the first thing is to decode what the problem is. So whatever the problem they have, for example, I am launching a pub and restaurant, or I'm launching a tech app, basically any application or phone application I'm launching. So my problem is that I want to reach consumers. I want to have an identity of my own. So the first thing which I will do is obviously go to an agency and tell them that, see, this is my app and I don't even have the name. So like we start at a very menial stage where we don't even have the name of the app, and we have to give them the creative edge and tell them that this is how you have to go about. So the first stage of the first stage where the agency starts working is basically the planning and strategy department, where the planning and strategy department are the start people who analyze the problem and find the solution to how to approach the problem, who is the TG, and a lot of big business jargon which like people give, basically to understand that what the problem is in simple words. So they first understand the problem and find solutions and target markets, so that like when the creative team is working on it, when the other two departments, which is the design and copy team, are working on it, they understand that what the problem is and how they can approach it, and who is our target, who are basically the people we are targeting, where is the product being launched, Delhi mein ho raha hai, Bombay mein ho raha hai, where is this happening. So we start from there, and then the creative team and the creative team, the design team and the copy team, they work together to come up with communication. So like the copy team starts thinking what kind of texts or what kinds of ideas we can go, and basically then the other two departments, which are the creative departments, the copy and the design team, go hand in hand. Like they work together, and they work together to achieve good quality product. But without any one of these components, one of these departments, the proper communication is not possible. So it's really important to nail it with all the three departments coming together, because if we don't know what problem we have to solve, then it'll be just like a very broad communication field where like uh, we'll be aiming into the dark and we don't know which direction or which place to hit at. So yeah, that's basically how an agency functions. There are a lot of other factors, other departments, other mini things, but these are the major broad categories or departments in which we work around. So yeah, I think that's how basically that's the basic brief on how an agency structure is. So now moving on to the type of projects and like whatever like kind of work I did and my company handled basically was so as I told you, like we have certain categories where we work around with. We have ATL and BTL communication. ATL means above the line, BTL means below the line communication. ATL basically deals with brand awareness, and BTL basically deals in response driven awareness or communication. So like ATL includes TV, radio, and all like one-sided basically communication where a person is just reading and getting like awareness, brand awareness. And the second is the BTL one where like you are more response driven, like you want to get in touch with people, you write emails, you do direct marketing, you call them, telemarketing. So all these things come under ATL and BTL. So that's the main thing. That's the most common thing which we do. Then, except that, a lot of companies right now are into brand identity development. So this is what my forte was while working in this company. So basically, it was brand identity development. So this is basically the first stage of starting a brand, where basically you give an identity to a brand. So we know Twitter because it has a we like like we recognize Twitter by the bird, by the chirping blue bird, or we recognize WhatsApp with the green symbol. So everyone connects to the identity of a brand. So identity of brands are formed basically understanding what kind of product they are selling or which kind of service they are in. So obviously, like maybe a gym, like a multi-fit gym, or like a fitness studio or a Zumba studio will have a completely different identity from maybe a phone app. So that's what my forte was. So we used to do a lot of brand identity development where the people used to come to us and tell us that see we have the investment and we want to start a brand, and we used to do end-to-end branding where basically we used to start from making logos to going into their stationery to going into their other brand components. So for example, it's a power, it's a cafe, so we are making the menus. If it's like a gym, we are making their wall vinyls and we are branding the entire place end to end. So that was brand identity and making brand assets and merchandise for them. The other thing was corporate identity, which is also similar to brand identity, where like instead of like it's proper corporate stuff, like you're making stationery for corporates, or you're making uh, PowerPoint presentations or pitch presentations for industries, corporate industries. So except that, we have brand campaigns, obviously, where like you make campaigns or you reach out to a particular brief where like you have to particularly target someone, or you have to reach a particular audience, and then you make a campaign around that. And then there's packaging, there's tactical campaign. Packaging is basically making like, for example, we have a really big chain in Hyderabad called Almond House. So Almond House has its old packaging and everything done by us. So this is basically all the kind of stuff which our agency used to do. Like we used to cover a lot of stuff, but this is like a brief idea of what all like we did. And except that, we also had different like fields which we worked in. We worked in the digital team, digital field, where like we specifically did social media marketing, social media management, digital strategy consulting. And just to like give you a brief idea, I can do one thing. I'm just sharing my screen.
Okay.
So can you see my screen now?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So basically, this is the website of my company, and so we had these different kind of like wings or verticals, what we call them, and we used to offer services under these verticals. So like if you if you want to consult this, or if you want to check this out later, you can just go to Agency. It's the website, and you can like go through all the kinds of services and a proper like integrated communication agency does. So we have everything, like we have different verticals where we are talking about different kinds of services which we offer, like from digital to XP to play, like where play is basically about videos and making documentaries and ad films and everything. XP is about like consumer activation activities, more on the side of on the field work. Then digital was more about website development, social media management, all the internet stuff. and then one was the main, like the mother of all the other verticals, where like we used to do ATL and BTL and all kinds of communication exercises, the more common ones and the more major ones. So yeah, so this was,
Uh,
yeah. So go ahead.
Hello, hi sir. This is
Yeah,
Priyanka.
yeah,
So I would like to know about packaging. What exactly is packaging? So you mentioned about packaging while you were
yeah,
telling about brand assets and merchandise.
yeah.
So could you just throw more light on this term packaging? What is
So
it about?
so packaging is one of the, it's more towards the FMCG, because like you require a lot of packaging in fields of where you're selling like products hand to hand. So we did packaging for Almond House, where we like did end-to-end packaging to all their products. And packaging is something which is used like by everyone, like whenever they approach a brand, and it's like like hand-to-hand stuff. Like you go to a brand, the first thing you see is the packaging, and the people right now make like have a really good focus on packaging, because I think that's something which attracts consumers quite a bit. So if you're right now, like a lot of people are moving from their usual kirana stores to hypermarkets, supermarkets, and all the other kinds of big chains like Big Bazaar and all that. So there's a lot of there are a lot of shelves going on there, and there are a lot of things on the shelf. And sometimes you just need that one packaging or one like piece of art maybe on the packaging to attract the consumer, and you don't have a lot of time, as like attention spans are getting smaller. So that's why packaging is like very very important in like in today's time. And usually how we used to work as an agency with packaging was that we had our own client. I won't call it a client actually. So the production team, basically agency has a production team which basically manages the production, all kinds of production which goes through an agency. Like we had our basically we had our people who used to do printing. We had a contact with them, and they used to do all sorts of printings, and we had a contact with them. So our like production guy used to deal with them, and they used to provide all kinds of materials and packaging, and like basically it was a printing press, so they used to print all kinds of packaging and brochures, and like it covers a huge broad category, where like they used to cover different types of packagings. Now packaging is also of different types. If I get into that, then I can tell you like it has different kinds of packaging. People use different thickness in packaging, like different papers, glossy papers, matte finishes, 3D printing is out there. A lot of thing goes revolves around packaging, where like as per the budget and as per the needs of the clients, we can go ahead and creatively make packaging as interesting as possible. And again, it comes back to strat again, where like I told you about the planning and the strategy department, where like they come and they try to understand that what kind of problem is this and how can we solve the problem by getting the perfect insight. So obviously, like there like different types of packaging is used for different kind of places. Like we can't probably use a fancy packaging for a medicine, and vice versa. We can't use like, if you see a Glucon-D ka dabba, it's very fancy, it's colorful, it has this 3D film on it, but maybe it can't go with a proper tablet or maybe a multivitamin tablet box or something like that. So it's quite variable. Anything else you want to ask about packaging? That's fine.
So thank you, sir, for answering this question. And so I would like to ask the next question, and that is how you plan your process and do you evaluate them? Like if you go for any campaign or if you go for any project, what is the whole process you take and do you evaluate it?
So so basically what do you mean by evaluation? Like is
Like
it like
do you
self
check whether
evaluation?
it was no, do you check whether the project or the campaign was successful or not, or like if it was not, what steps could have been taken to you know make it,
uh,
yeah.